Hey everyone, my name's Matt and welcome back to the channel. A few videos back we started working on the 1720 Ford compact tractor. Had a bad water pump, it was leaking antifreeze all over the place and a couple other little minor things. So I took the water pump off and got a new belt coming for it because this one was junk. Well, all that is here. All these parts we ordered from the dealer. We got a remanufactured water pump. Everything looks the same from the new one to the old one. Don't see any difference. Got a brand new fan belt, again ordered right directly from the dealer, and a new mounting gasket for the water pump, mounting directly right to the front timing cover. So let's get busy. So the first thing we gotta do is get this old mounting gasket off of here and clean up this gasket mounting surface. Well, we got everything on the tractor side set, ready to mount the water pump up. We got to get the fan and the water pump pulley mounted onto the water pump. So we're going to start off with getting the pulley lined up. Then we'll get the spacer lined up. Yeah, we'll get the gasket put on first. I'm going to put the gasket on dry, mainly because both mounting surfaces are in really good shape. There's no pitting or anything that would worry me as far as not getting a good seal. So we're just going to get this kind of laid on there for now. And we'll see if we can't get this slid down in place. All the bolts are the same size, so it doesn't matter which bolt goes where. The only difference is there's a stud that has a nut on it. Yeah, let's see if I can find where the nut goes. Right there. We'll get some of these bolts snugged up. Now before everybody jumps down on me and says you ought to be using a torque wrench to torque these, yep, I know I should be, but I don't have one that goes small enough to torque it. So, and before I forget about it, I'm going to fish this new fan belt through here, because sure enough I'll get this thing just about all back together and say crap. There. Now we'll see if we can get the radiator slid back in place after we put the coolant jug back on its bracket. I'll get this lower radiator hose on first. Get her slid up as far as we can go. Alright, where was I? Seems like forever ago that I started putting a water pump on this Ford 1720 compact tractor. Various reasons why. Shorter daylight, been driving bus that take 4 hours a day. And then honestly I haven't felt very good. Took me over a week to mostly get over whatever I had. But we're getting back on it now. I did work on this thing a little bit here or there when I had a free few minutes and felt like doing it. We got the bypass hose for the thermostat housing to the water pump installed. We got the brand new fan belt on, tightened up in proper tension with the alternator. So the first thing we got to do is take this plug out and put a fitting in place of it for this hose here. This hose goes back to the aftermarket cab that's on this tractor, and it's for a cab heater. And if this tractor had doors on it and windows and such, then it would supply heat to the cab to keep the driver warm. Well, we got the fitting all cleaned up. We'll put some pipe tape on here, make sure she gets a good seal and doesn't leak any antifreeze. Alright, let's get this radiator mounted back in place. And now for the hood prop. Perfect. I get these funky clamps back in position. I mentioned I'm not a huge fan of these. There we go. There. Well, I think we're ready to put antifreeze in her, but before we do that, we got to make sure we closed the drain, and we did. So I'll take the cap off. Well, we're going to put brand new antifreeze in this that I had. Talking with the customer, when it started to leak antifreeze, he was just putting water in it. So we're going to make sure we put good antifreeze back in it. Now this radiator, you do fill full because it has an expansion tank and it has somewhere for the antifreeze to expand to. Otherwise, if you don't have an expansion tank or a pressure tank like this one's got, usually you leave a couple inch air gap, so that way as it warms up and the antifreeze expands, it has somewhere to go and doesn't run out the overflow pipe and leave a mess everywhere. So for me, it's a general rule of thumb, if you don't have an overflow pipe, I at least like to cover the top of the fins. A lot of it depends though on how big your top part of your tank is on top of the radiator. But this one here, we're going to fill right to the top, and I'm pretty happy right where it's at. So we're going to top off the overflow jug. There. I got a leak, but I don't believe it's anything that I did, and I'll show you why. So I don't know what you can see very well down in there, but there's two different gaskets in here. You got a red gasket, and then back in is an orange gasket. The red gasket is a gasket that the factory put on when they rebuilt this pump, and it seals the front half of the housing to the rear cover plate for the housing. The orange gasket is the gasket that I put on that seals the pump assembly to the front of the block. Well, what I got going on is I have antifreeze that's leaking out around this red gasket right here in this area at the end of my screwdriver. The other thing that I have noticed is I have antifreeze coming out around the bolt head and running back this way and then getting blown around by the fan. But I thought, well, let's see what happens if I pull this bolt out, put some Teflon tape on it, and put it back in. I did not believe that this was a bolt that went into a coolant passage. I checked each one of the bolt holes before I put the pump on with a piece of wire to make sure they all went into a blind hole, and they did. But I figured just for added measure, I'll put some Teflon tape on that bolt head, or on the threads of that bolt, and put it back in. Well, that didn't change nothing. So what I think is happening is they got a little extra goo on here from when they assembled it, and I don't think it's sealed right, whatever. And what's happening is the antifreeze is seeping by between the front pump housing and the rear pump housing, and is leaking externally and then also running down along the bolt and coming out down through here. Nothing like having to do a job twice, and especially when it's not something that you created in the first place. Oh well, it is what it is. I think this is where I'm going to leave off with the video. I'm going to end up taking this pump back off of here, getting it back to the dealer, and letting them figure out what the heck's going on and see about getting another pump, and I'll get it put back on. And in the meantime, I got to get hoses for the front tilt cylinders. I got to get filters and oil for this thing. He wants it all changed, and I'm going to see if I can talk him into a new battery for this thing too, because I got to put the charger on it to get it running, because it don't like to hold the charge very well. So Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you like our channel, as always, we ask you to subscribe. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.